Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I speak to successful entrepreneur and author Clément Decrop. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm going to call you Clem for the rest of the episode, just so
Perfect.
I don't botch it. And today we're going to talk about unpacking startup success with the idea space. Before I jump into the idea space, I want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, because that's kind of what this, unpacking startup success. How do you get from zero to CEO, right? How do you, that's, the segment's name. So how did you start out as an entrepreneur and then realize that there was a lot you could do, and how did you get there?
Yeah, great question. I think it started at an earlier age where I was always fascinated with entrepreneurs. Like I would always look at Forbes' wealthiest people. For some reason, that always interested me. And as I got older, I tried different ventures. Some worked, some really didn't work. And then with the idea space, I was listening to a guy named Naval Ravikant who founded AngelList. And he said, you got to do something that'll make you money while you sleep so that you can free up your time, because time is wealth, right? And so that kind of really resonated with me. And I could code, but my skills weren't very sharp, and I've sharpened them a lot more since. But I read a lot. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I write a book? And so I wrote a book, and that kind of built the heart of what the brand is. And then to market the book, I made some cards that I sell on Amazon. And then now it's kind of like taken a life of its own, where it's just like, all right, let's just build out the brand's own story.
Yeah, there's a million different things. And I want to actually jump back a minute, because you said something in there about learning the code and kind of refining your skills. I see people on Reddit and a lot of other platforms always saying, like, how do I find a technical co-founder? How do I find a CTO? And me, I'm the same as you. I'm a CEO, but I also am CTO worthy, and I'm one of the developers on my team for my startup. And, for this last AI product we just built, I was one of the main developers committing merge requests all day long on GitLab. So I tell people, you have to learn something, right? You can't just expect technical people to just jump on board, right? So tell me the piece that, about learning how to code, that you kind of force yourself to do it, and why you force yourself, and what kind of respect you got from developers after that, and how easier it was to get those developers on board because of the respect they gave you.
Yeah, great question. I think so. It started for me. I was kind of forced to do it. We were doing Excel stuff at work, and I was like, we need to do Python because there was too much data. But then from there, that's only like the thing that's tricky about coding is like there's so many different types of coding you can do.
Yeah.
So like for all the front end stuff, I had to do this like code academy, like just code boot camp.
HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Exactly. And then from there, you just projects. Honestly, like I didn't really I had one other project, and then I'm building this like AI meditation, Gen AI thing where it's like, all right, you chat with it, you say what type of meditation you want, and then it kind of outputs with 11 Labs, text to speech. And so like it's just learning on projects, honestly. And for entrepreneurs out there, like the zero to CEO is a lot of grinding. And like you said, with the skills that you want to learn, you just have to grind through those skills, because like future you will thank you for it, even if past and present you doesn't want to do it now.
Absolutely. And you keep mentioning like meditation, and, it's one of the things that I had to learn how to, it's funny, that you have to actually learn how to meditate, because first you have to learn how to shut off the outside world. Second, you got to learn how to close your eyes and breathe, deeply, the right, 4 in, 4 out. And there's a lot of different methods, a lot of different apps. But what got you into not only meditation, but wanting to build something in the meditation space? Because it's a kind of a crowded space, I would think.
Yeah, great question. I think for me, it's like meditation is like to understand how your mind works. There's a good quote by Energy which says, if you want to understand your mind, sit down and study it. And so with the book, it takes a very scientific approach to kind of understanding how your mind relates to the universe at large by introducing the first solution to Einstein's field equation in 6 years. So there's in like 50 years. So there's only like 5 or 6 exact solutions to Einstein's field equation. And so the idea space introduces the 7th, right? And so I think that's kind of a very unique angle that builds a mission that is easy to build off of, as opposed to just like meditation for meditation's sake, right? It's like we do this because it's important, and it's important because it builds a happy life.
Yeah, you need it, right? It lowers stress, and there's so many other, great things. It clears your mind from all the negativity out there. So let's talk a little bit about what you said earlier about how you started a bunch of companies or startups or whatnot, and they just didn't work out. You must have learned a lot of lessons from them, right? And that's what I always tell people is you didn't fail. You learn how not to do something, or you learn how to do something better, and now you can succeed in the next startup idea where people get defeated too easily. So if you could tell 10, 20 years ago, you could tell yourself, hey, these are the 3 things you shouldn't do when starting a company or a business. What would those 3 things be so my listeners can hear it?
Yeah, that's it's so hard. I think one of the biggest ones for us was splitting equity equally amongst everybody. And Peter Thiel talks about this in his book Zero to One too, where if everybody's an equal shareholder, no one takes the reins.
Right.
And so no one takes responsibility. I think that was like the biggest lesson for my one startup we did. It just like didn't work afterwards. We split equity and then no one took the reins. So I
Right.
think that was a big one. And then the
So
second one
like,
is
so
just
like giving the CEO a nice chunk, the CTO a smaller chunk, the VP of marketing a smaller chunk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, you still want people to have equity because that's how like they're invested and they go like you want people to go above and beyond. Like you want people who are interested in what you're doing and they'll think about it outside of working hours. Otherwise, you're just not going to succeed just because like they're doing it for a job.
This is
And
a
like
major
yeah.
conversation that happens online every single day. How much equity do I give my co-founders? It's like one of the biggest conversations. No one ever knows how to do it because it is really hard, and it's based on like how valuable your skills are, how much work you said, how much work you're going to do. So like, I always tell people, look, the rule of thumb is you start the company by yourself. You got 100% of the company. You bring on a CTO, give him 10%, see if he can earn performance-based shares from that. VP of marketing, same thing, 10%, see if they can earn some performance-based shares. And anybody else who joins your company gets like stock options, and everyone just earns and earns and earns. And that's just the easiest way to do it, because when an investor comes in, they're going to take the biggest chunk. So you got to get ready for that.
That's so true.
So
And
let's
you
talk.
need like vesting, like
Yeah, vesting
sure
4-year
they
cliff. I
have-
mean, that's a whole
yeah.
different episode we can get into. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about how you launched your most successful startup. Like, what were the steps that you took that got you from point A to point B? Because most people just see the success. Like you said, you were reading Forbes and you were all interested in Forbes. But how do you get to Forbes? Like, what did you do to get there?
Yeah, good question. I think step one is continuous learning. So every morning I'm a nerd. I read textbooks for fun. So anything from
You are a
physics.
nerd.
Yeah.
reading books. Come on. Oh
Yeah,
man.
so like all textbooks from like physics to computer science to everything, and just like continued education is huge. And then just like grit, like in like making a plan. One of the first things I did was like write a business proposal. And in it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna write a book, and the book is gonna sell because I'm gonna make these cards, and there's gonna be the avenues to sell the book. And it's like nothing is overnight success. Like it's a slow, steady grind. Tyreek Hill, who's like a football player, I was watching his podcast with Michael Vick once, Philly legend and Atlanta legend, but he
It's
said
true.
like slow success builds character.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important in all aspects of life, where if you want that overnight success, then being a CEO isn't the right job for you. It's like this is something you work at slowly but surely every day. And in 10 years, you look back and you're like, whoa, what just happened?
People need to hear this again, because everybody is so they see the glamour, the glamour of like Hollywood, where an actor just wins an Academy Award on their first movie. Now they're like this huge star, or a CEO gets $5 million for their first startup because they graduated from Stanford and they worked at PayPal or whatever. That doesn't happen. It's not reality, right? You have to grind it out. You got to show traction. You got to get customers and revenue. You got to build out a team. You got to mitigate all the risk for investors if your uncle is not Bill Gates and if you did not graduate from MIT, right? That's the reality, right? So what you just said is you need to do a long-term kind of outlook on this, right? So let's now talk about how, once you do it, right? Once you get past all that stuff we just talked about, how do you sell it? Because selling something is super, super difficult.
Yeah. Wow. That's $1 million question right there. I think
Yeah, it is.
selling is so hard because it's like so dependent on time and place. You just got to find the right people at the right time and at the right place. And I think the best way to sell is like, what is it going to do for me? Like you have to really step back and take an approach. Like you're not selling something to someone, you're helping them, right? Like they've got a problem, and how do you help them like solve that problem? So,
Yeah.
for example, like outside of this, I also work on like deals, and like that's a huge aspect of the deal culture. Is just like you're not trying to sell something to someone, you're just trying to give them the best possible solution that they want, so that they can do the thing that they're trying to do and make their life great in however way they want.
That's a great way to look at it. And I mean, we talk about pain points all day long. You mentioned Peter Thiel. Like, he actually handed me his book Zero to One in an elevator. I pitched him. He was at
Whoa,
he
that's
was at,
cool.
and he said the same thing. He said, actually, what he told me, it's really good. It's what he told me was look for something that is overlooked in the market. He said a lot of people are always trying to target these like hot spaces and then it gets saturated. He said, go for the thing that no one's looking at, that no one's touched for 20 years. Solve that problem. And that's what I've been doing ever since he told me that, because, and he's right. There's no competition, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that, right? There's competition in the market. Okay. And you have a book, you have cards. I mean, there's gotta be a million of these things on Amazon. How the hell do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
Yeah, honestly, you only need one thing that differentiates. And for us, for the cards, like specifically, all the cards in the market have like 50 cards in them. We have 100, same
Okay.
price. So you use a catchy tagline like double the value, same price. People know what they're getting. And like a big thing is like you need a differentiator that you yourself want. Because if you don't want your product, no one else is going to want your product, right?
That's true. It's got to be interesting and fun and exciting and useful, right? Because if not, then you're going to get bad reviews. Now,
Yeah.
I saw on your website you have like 100 patents or something. I'm confused. How do you? First of all, why do you have so many, and how do you have so many?
So I worked at IBM for a while, and IBM was the number one patent producer for like 29 years running. And they recently started shifting away from that for the right reasons, I think. But so like through them, they streamlined the process, and I just got linked up with a lot of master inventors who knew how to do it really well. A lot of them were on Wikipedia's most prolific inventors list. And so I think it was just right place, right time. And I'm just very fortunate to just like, I had like 100 in a year, 130 submitted
That's
in a year.
insane.
And my one friend with me, he did 360 in a year. So like every day he was pushing out a patent. And I was just like, all right, man,
That's
you got this.
you're paying for those patents, though, right? I mean, you got to pay for the application fees, right?
So that's the nice thing. Since I was doing them through IBM, I just come up with the ideas, come up with the form and disclosure, and then the lawyers come in and take it away. So
Interesting.
made my life much easier.
That's definitely a very unique situation that most people cannot duplicate. And I
Yeah,
know
it's
you
expensive.
said, yeah. I mean, I tried getting a provisional once, and I was like, yeah, forget this, I'm done. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about Gen AI, because you do mention that you use Gen AI a bit in your products. Let's talk about how building an app using Gen AI, and also like how detailed and intricate it is.
Yeah. So like I said a little bit earlier on, the whole basis of the app is like you chat with it and you want a meditation and it'll output a meditation for you. And then there's like a whole progress page to give you like stats and feedback and insights into kind of how you're doing. You can chat with your goals, so on and so forth. And I think
What
for me,
what's the
yep.
future? What's the future though? Because like that's what everybody has, right? I want to know like what's your outlook on like what you see that's going to happen in the next 5 years? I mean, we both see what's going on with AI every day. It's insane, right? But what do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think?
Oh, I love this. All right, now you're gonna get in my sweet spot. Like this is my like so like after this project, I think something I really want to do is like smart home, but like a real smart home, not just like, oh,
Jarvis.
I have a Google Nest. No, it's like you have a hologram in your home that helps you do everything you want. It sees what you're cooking, be like, oh, hey, you're cooking this, let me help you. And then you kind of start with that, and then you build into robotics. I think robotics is
Yeah.
probably like 10 years away, but then if you can integrate those two and have like different stations in your house and have your robot go to different stations. And like the key to it is like you want to sell via the house. Like a robot's going to cost $20,000, right? No one's going to buy that. But if you sell the robot as part of your house, people are just going to spend 600 grand on a house anyway and take out a loan. So what's
Right.
620 grand
Right.
on a loan? And so you kind of like get this new business model. And so I think the future of
Like
Gen AI is going to be
embedded
through that.
robotics, embedded AI. Because like I use
Yeah.
AI all day long. It's just kind of made my life super productive, and it frees me
Yeah.
it frees me up to be more creative and do the things I like. But I'm still missing that component, right? I still got to do my laundry. I still got to cook. I still got to clean. I still got to carry things around the house. It's true, man. I still got to do all sorts of things that I really don't want to do. And I personally am waiting for that AI robot that literally does all that stuff for me all day long, so I can just continue being productive and creative. And I agree with you 100%. That's where I think we're headed. So before we wrap up, tell everybody how they can get your cards, your book, where they can find you online.
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, thank you for having me. This has been an absolute
Yeah,
blast.
man.
But best place to go is theideaspace.io, and there you'll find the first chapter of my book for free. So you can go check it out if you like it. You can find the cards, and then that'll be where the meditation app gets posted in like the next couple months.
Awesome. Definitely, guys, check it out. Theideaspace.io. Clem, this was awesome. I hope you guys pick up the book, do it, try his app, get some cards, have some fun, meditate, clear your mind, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.